And he talked about how he had no friends in school, got picked on every single day, always had to eat lunch by himself. And he talked about how he made a decision earlier that day that he was going to go home and take his own life. He talked about how he cleared out his locker and was carrying all his books home so his parents wouldn't have to do that later. Why, hello everybody, and welcome back to Stepping Stones to Your Success. This is Garland, and tonight we're going to go into fundamental natural law number 38, which is never underestimate the power of your actions. One kind gesture can change a person's life. So let me tell you a quick story about Daryl. Imagine, if you will, back in the day when middle schools were known as junior high schools. I was walking home on a Friday afternoon, and I noticed there's a boy up in front of me. He must have been carrying every book that he owned because he was double loaded in both arms. And I dismissed him as being some kind of brainiac, some kind of nerd, because I know that wasn't the kind of weekend I was planning. Weekend I was planning is fun and football with my friends. So I watched these three big boys come right in the corner, and they ran smack dab into this kid. Glasses went flying one way, books went flying the other. He landed face first in the dirt. I said, ooh, I better help this guy. So by the time I got up to him, he was searching blindly on his hands and knees in search of his glasses. I handed him his glasses. I said, those guys are a bunch of jerks. They need to get lives, don't they? And he looked up at me with a tear in his eye, and he says, thanks a lot. I appreciate your help. I said, well, let me help you some more. And I grabbed half his books, and we walked on down the road. And I said, my name's Garland. What's your name? And he says, well, my name is Daryl. And I said, Daryl, where you live? He says, well, I live on Bryce Drive. Well, I live on Bryce Drive too. The more we walked, the more we talked, the more I realized he wasn't a nerd at all. He's actually a pretty cool kid. I invited him to play football with us that weekend. He's a good football player as well. Well, Monday come, and I'm walking back to school, and who do I see up in front of me? None other than Daryl. And he's carrying all those books again. So I ran up to him and I says, Daryl, you're gonna get all kinds of muscles carrying these books every place you go. And he just laughed and gave me half his books. We walked on to school, and over the next 4 years, we became friends. Matter of fact, we became best friends. And truth be known, I was a little jealous of Daryl going up through high school because he actually had more girlfriends than I did. But on the day we graduated black belt together, I wasn't jealous at all because he got picked as the number one guy, and the number one guy had to give a speech. And I watched on that day, I could tell Daryl was sweating bullets. That means he was really nervous. And I slapped him on the back and I said, don't worry, Daryl, you're gonna be just fine. And he gave me that look again. He says, I appreciate that. And I watched Daryl as he got up in front of the podium in front of, oh my goodness, probably about 1,000 folks. And he cleared his voice and he says, you know, when you make it to black belt, that's a time to show an attitude of gratitude, he says. Now, you need to be grateful and thankful to all the people that helped you, like your instructor who showed you all the secret ninja black belt stuff. We need to be thankful to our families who took us to karate for 2 days a week for what seems like forever. But I'm here to say, most of all, you need to be thankful to your friends, your close friends, because they're the ones that help you through your darkest hour. And then to my surprise, he says, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you my story. And then Daryl talked about the very first day that he and I met. He recalled more details than I could ever remember. And he talked about how he had no friends in school, got picked on every single day, always had to eat lunch by himself. And he talked about how he made a decision earlier that day that he was going to go home and take his own life. He talked about how he cleared out his locker and was carrying all his books home so his parents wouldn't have to do that later. But then he said, luckily, I found a friend. And because of the kindness of my new friend, I changed my mind, and I'm still here with you today as a result. And I looked over at Daryl's parents, and both of them were staring dead at me. And Dad gave me this nod of approval, and it was at that moment in time I truly understood what Grandmaster Buell taught us so many years ago. He says, never underestimate the power of your actions. One kind gesture can change a person's life. Again, never underestimate the power of your actions. One kind gesture can change a person's life. On the day that I showed kindness to Daryl, unbeknown to me, that saved his life. On the day that he told that story, that had a tremendous impact on my life as well. Mr. Nick Coquinos, one of my mentors, said it best when he says, give without remembering and receive without forgetting. What that means is, I'm going to give you $50, then I'm going to walk away and forget about it. But if you give me $5, I'm going to remember you forever. Grandmaster Buell says help and be helped. It's called karma. You be nice to people and you get 10 people being nice back to you. The opposite of that's true as well. If you do dirt to somebody, if you're mean to somebody, you're disrespectful to somebody, then watch out, because 20 people are going to come back and give you that same thing in return. So folks, you got an assignment, random acts of kindness. The assignment's pretty simple. After you get done watching this video sometime today, you got to be nice to 7 people. I want you to be nice to 7 people and not expect anything in return. So that brings us back full circle on fundamental natural law number 38, which is never underestimate the power of your actions. One kind gesture can change a person's life. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. All the best to your family, and we'll be back to you real soon.